Hey, what's up, everybody? Christian Brindle here, and I am back with somebody doing big time things in the space. I'm joined with my newest friend, Tony Holland. Tony is an absolute dynamite individual in the industry right now. Tony is a managing partner at Integrity. Tony has achieved a huge amount of success in the industry, overcame a lot of difficulties and a lot of challenges in his life to get to where he is. I'm just super excited to be able to kind of unpack his journey for you guys and be able to see what kind of value we can extract from Tony's experiences for all of you guys that you can take away from this. So first off, Tony, how are you doing today? And thank you for being
I'm
here.
I'm doing awesome, man. It's an honor and a privilege. I'm so blessed. I mean, Chris, when you called me and said, could you do a podcast? I was so honored. I remember the day you were announced, Chris, as an integrity partner. I think I was the first guy to call you. I was
I
at
think
the
you
home
were.
office and I wanted to congratulate because I heard your name for years and you're a young gun, up and coming star. And you're just been knocking it out the park. And that's what I love so much about integrity and our industry as a whole. There's a lot of upcoming young people in their 20s and 30s that are maximizing this incredible opportunity. So I was blessed and honored to be here with you today, Chris, and your team. So shoot away, my friend.
Love it. I'm so appreciative that you're taking the time and that you're here, and I'm excited. I'm excited to be able to have a great conversation. So, Tony, if for anybody that might not be familiar with you as of yet before watching this video, can you give us a little bit of an introduction, right? How did Tony Holland get into the industry? What does the
Mhm.
humble beginnings look like for you?
Well, if you probably saw my integrity video that's gone out
Yes.
there, uh, I remember when we did that video, and I said I wanted to show the real life of Tony because at that time when I became an integrity partner, everybody was showing off their jets, their yachts, their beautiful homes, their Porsches, their Ferraris, their Lambos. I'm like, I don't want to show all that. Okay, I want to show where I started. So
Mm,
actually, my video shows me on the streets of Baltimore knocking on doors. It shows the van I used to live in. So, and it showed where I went to school. So I started, I grew up in a town called Brunswick, Maryland. It's a railroad town in Western Maryland, kind of one of those old school blue collar towns that, you grew up to either work on the farm or you worked on the railroad or you went into the military. College was really not really part of the equation unless you're part of a select few families in Brunswick. And I grew up with a single parent mom, had a brother as well, and unfortunately passed at a young age in the military. So, like I said, a lot of adversities, as you said earlier. So it was tough growing up without a father. Dealt with a lot of adversities. Like I saw more things at 6 years old than most adults haven't seen. So it was a tough upbringing, but it made me who the man I am today. Thankfully, I had great coaches who were my male role models, Chris, and I became really good at sports. We got very competitive in my education as well because I just wanted to get out of that rut. So I applied to Johns Hopkins University, and they were also recruiting me to play football. And that's not an easy school to get into. It's I think number 9 in the world, and I got accepted. Got a full academic scholarship, and also played football there. Joined a fraternity. Started my first company while I was there as well. So I knew I always had entrepreneurship built in me. And I remember even when I was a kid, I broke some sales record for selling for the Glee Club. It was a jewelry campaign. I sold more in a weekend than most people sold in a month. So I knew always entrepreneurship sales was in me. Started a painting company, college pro painters in college. That's how I ended up living out of that van because things got tight. I did graduate from Johns Hopkins. I was applying to med school and going for the pre-med program. And I found out real quick, Chris, that even though I really wanted to serve and wanted to help and make a difference in the world, I didn't like blood, didn't like hospitals. So wrong profession. Wrong profession. So I did get my degree. Tried the administrative route. So I went to the School of Hygiene and Public Health and studied healthcare administration. Just wasn't my thing. I wanted to go out there and get into the business world. So I started waiting tables, bartending until I started figuring out what I wanted to do. It was a restaurant called Liberatories. And they couldn't believe my work ethic. Like people back in the day said they couldn't believe my work ethic. I used to run their carry out. I would open the location, I would close it. And people were like, you have a life. I'm like, no, I just wanted to work, Chris. I wanted to get out. I wanted to get out of that rut in life that I was in. Living out of the van, struggling to pay bills, struggling to get by. I knew there was something in me. And thank the good Lord that one of the bartenders was interviewing with a company called American Income Life, and this was in
Mm.
1993. And
Wow.
I took the leap of faith, Chris, and he says, "Why don't you come to the interview with me?" Get this: he was going to get $500 if he brought a friend into the interview that had a college degree. It was part of their program, and I didn't know he was doing that for the $500. I thought he was doing it to help me, but thank God, look where I turned out. And God bless him, Ray Mazzone went back to bartending. He's still bartending today, and I've done incredible things, as you said earlier, thanks to the good Lord, that I was introduced to this business. Because I loved it, Chris. When I first got started in this business, I'm like, I can control my own income. I already had the work ethic. Working 70, 80 hours a week to me, Chris, was a no-brainer. I mean, that was like normal to me, from where I grew up. It was just that kind of community you work. Most people work 2 and 3 jobs. So to be able to work one job and go out there and I control my own income, selling insurance and making a difference in people's lives, Chris, I was all in. So that's how I first got started into this business, man. I got introduced by a friend, like many of us did, and started with a labor union insurance company called American Income Life, and became a top salesperson. That's how I got started in business.
Wow. It's crazy to hear, kind of the timeline of that, right? So your friend introduces you in 1993. The first thing that pops into my mind when you said that is I was born in 92.
Well,
So I was a year old.
I wrote my first app in February of '94. So I've been over a little over 30 years. He introduced me in '93, and I was hemming and hawing about. I'm like, sell insurance? Are you kidding me? I got a Johns Hopkins degree. And I'm like, maybe I'll give this a shot. And I did it. And I know what I did, Chris. I said, I'm gonna give this 1 year. And I said, I fully committed. And that's something I tell agents all the time. You got to fully commit. It's like a marriage or a business. People are tipping their toes into this and like testing the water. I went all in. I said, I'm not going to watch TV. Matter of fact, I got rid of cable back then. I stopped dating. I didn't date. I didn't go out. I didn't go to bars. I didn't go to clubbing. I was a young, college, just recent college grad. So that first year, man, I was committed. Even girls at the office wanted to go out. I'm like, I don't have time to go out. I've given this a year. I only give it all I had. And that first month, I made over $7,000 my first month, and it blew me
Mhm.
away. I made $124,000, Chris. That first year, finished in the top 10 at American Income. I was rookie agent of the year. And by the way, no one in my family ever made over $50,000. I made
Wow.
124,000. That's about what, 350 now.
Yeah.
So I was hooked. That first year was like, I'm hooked. And another quick tip I'll give your team: what did I do mentally? Because I grew up with the wrong mindset. The biggest challenge I see with agents, they have the wrong mindset. So did I. We were all programmed to get a good job, get a nice retirement, get the gold watch, have a boss, have an employer, have benefits. Going self-employment was nothing taught to us. Entrepreneurship wasn't taught in my high school. They didn't even teach us how to balance a checkbook in my high school. You were programmed to be a worker for big government or big business. And you guys know this. I don't know if your team knows this, but who created the government agency for the Board of Education? It was John D. Rockefeller, and he's
Really?
like, I don't. Yeah, John D. Rockefeller created uh, the school board, the federal school board. And he
Wow.
says, I don't want a country of thinkers. I want a country of workers. And,
Mm.
and of course, big business bought into that, and so did big government. And that's why, by design, the public school system is purposely programming people to be workers and not thinkers. I had to learn
Yeah.
entrepreneurship after I left Brunswick High School and Johns Hopkins. Even the top universities aren't teaching that because they want to program people to be in this box.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing I say all the time, to when I'm working with new agents in our office in our organization is especially when I talk with people that they have degrees or maybe the case might be that they put a lot of stock into things they learned in school, especially really younger people, right? Like
Right.
people in their early 20s. I said this the other day to someone. I was like, I'm like, to school, which is part of the system, a system can only reproduce a system.
Yes.
And I think it's crazy to think about that structure that we have in our society right now. Because you're right, they don't teach financial literacy, they don't
Right.
teach, entrepreneurship, they don't teach business. What do you feel like were some things that when you got started as an entrepreneur, what were the biggest like aha moments, or if you can think of a couple of
Well,
them that you
yeah.
learned?
So like I said, I had to fix this
Yeah.
because you spend 20 what so 12 years of public education, then another 4 years. I had an extra year working on my master's. So that's 12, 17 years of defective programming to be a worker, not a thinker.
Mm.
I had to dive deep into retraining this. And thank God I had a good sales manager. My first company got me to read certain books and listen to cassettes. Back then we had cassettes, Chris. we actually there were no CDs back then. There were cassettes. So I listened to Tom Hopkins. So that was one of my
Hmm.
first mentors, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy. But my best mentor back in the day was Anthony Robbins. I really
Mm.
dove into his books and also Robert Kiyosaki. That's a must read for your team. Please make sure when you guys edit this, don't edit this out. They must read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. That'll explain exactly what I'm talking about with the school board, how they're programming young people, how colleges are programming to be workers and not thinkers. How there it is. I got an original copy too, brother, signed by Robert Kiyosaki. But
Oh, I
that's
love
a
it.
great book, a must read. And another must read is Think and Grow Rich by
Yes.
Napoleon Hill. You have to read those.
Yeah.
But
I think every author you mentioned is back in the bookshelves behind me.
hey, I see that, man. You got a nice
Yeah.
collection, brother. That's awesome.
Yeah. I
So
love books.
I think that's what agents I don't understand. You're fighting a battle that you've been programmed. For me was 17 years. So I dove deep that first year. All I did is listen to cassettes, read books, because I wanted to get out of that rat race. No one's going to do anything for you but yourself. You have to understand your biggest investment is you. So I went to
Hmm.
every webinar, I went to every seminar, anything I could go to. I still do that today. And it shocks me that people that need to be listening to this aren't listening to it. The people that need to be at the seminars aren't going to the seminars. Like the one that you're going to have that's coming up is going to be an incredible event. But it's amazing the people that need to be there don't go. And I
Yeah.
used to shock me when Brian Tracy was in town and Tom Hopkins was in town and Zig Ziglar was in town and Les Brown was in town and Peter Lowe and all these greats back in the 90s. I was there, but no one from my office would go. And I would beg them, come with me, guys. Nobody would go. They never wonder why I'm making 100,000 a year plus every year. My second year, by the way, I made over 325,000 my second year there, by the way, because of the renewals and increasing my sales. And I'll tell you the story how that happened too, how I transformed why I was selling. If you want me to share that, I'll be glad to share that.
Yeah, please. Please, absolutely.
So that first year, I was committed. Reading the books, listening to cassettes. I didn't listen to the radio, no cable. I worked 70, 80 hours a week because I needed to break out. And I set that goal to make $100,000, which I did. Started in the second year, by the way, I got the car, I got the condo. I was living a nice life. New suits. I like to dress nice. Nice KNG suits I had back then. But I was, in my mind, living large and doing well. Very excited. I had a nice Corvette convertible. I was just living the life. Had, a lot of things going my way, money in the bank, I thought I was like Donald Trump, And until a day I was out making an enrollment. It was a union member, and they were difficult on the phone, and then obviously difficult face to face. They just didn't want to do anything with me, and I really got to the root of it. I used a lot of the training techniques. I'm like, I said, what's wrong, Mr. and Mrs. Miller? I really want to help you with this program, and I said, is this something I forgot to cover? They said, no, 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 no. Is this something about me you don't like? They go, no, 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 no. I said, could it be the money? And they're like, kind of. So what do you mean? Well, they're expecting a layoff because of what's going on in our plant. I'm like, what do you mean? They go, yeah, we're actually on strike, and we don't know if we're going to even have jobs soon. And at that time, when I used my thinking, we had what's called a strike and layoff waiver. I'm like, thank God, that's what got them. They said, really, you guys will pay the premiums? Yes, we'll pay them as long as you're in the plan. If you go on strike or go on if you get laid off, we'll pay the premiums when it actually happened 3 months later. Within another 3 months after that happened, we're paying their premiums. I get a call from Terry Thompson. I'll never forget that day. Terry Thompson, the union president, called me. There was an accident on Lake Linganore. I said, Lake Linganore? Yeah, I know where that is. It's not far from my house. He goes, there was drowning. And it was one of the kids of that family. And thank God I added the child rider because they had no insurance from that kid. And
Mm,
no amount of money can bring back a child, but to be able to deliver a check, I think it was like 20 some $1,000 because it had an accident clause in there for that policy. Now I realize why God had me in this position. That was a 12-year-old kid, Chris.
wow.
I stopped selling for commissions at that time because that first year I was selling to get the car, to get the suits, to get the girls. I wanted to make a ton of money. I wanted to be the man. I wanted to, live my financial dream. But in that second year, when I had to deliver a death claim, I tell people all this all the time. You will never be at your true potential until you have to do a death claim. Then you realize why we're in this business. When one of your clients, whether they're on Medicare, dies in the hospital while they're on one of your Medicare plans, and all those expenses are taken care of and not leaving a burden to the family. In addition, then you also added a life policy and it pays for the burial, pays off the house. I've now realized why I was in the insurance business. And I always thought it'd be some 70 or 80-year-old I'd have to deliver a check. It was a 12-year-old kid,
Mm,
12-year-old kid. And I got kids. I couldn't imagine having to bury one of my children. And and apparently that kid was trying to save two other kids' lives. He ended up dying trying to save them, and all three of the kids died.
oh God.
And yeah, so it's my sales went through the roof because I stopped selling for the money and the commissions. I started selling for the passion. I
Yeah.
had a sincere passion in my heart that I knew if you say no to me, you're really saying no to your kids. You're saying no to your spouse. You're saying no to your family. And so in many of my presentations, I brought that to reality. I used to take the pictures off the wall, Chris, and set it in front of them. You're not saying no to me, Miss Johnson. You're saying no to them.
Mm,
Okay. You're saying no to them. You can say no to me all you want because I know what it's like. I lived it. And then not far after that, my brother died in the military. So I had to deal with that on a personal level. So I really believe, it's a calling, just like a calling for a minister or a police officer, a firefighter. My son had a calling to be in the military. My son went to West Point, just graduated last May. Now he's training to be a helicopter pilot. Um, it's a calling, you know, and it's hard to explain, but the trigger point of that calling is when you have to deal with a death claim or a severe medical claim that you help your client with. Now you realize why your God put you in this business.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's almost like your purpose is to serve and then good things come to you as a result,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's very powerful because I think
Yeah.
for the people that I've seen, and I know you've seen it as well, probably much more, that are in it just for the money, they burn out, they phase
Yeah.
out, they get eventually they get that and they just the fire in their bellies basically put out at that point.
Yeah. Because it can only go so far. I've read thousands of books, been on tons of workshops and seminars. I still learn from some of the best in the business. And that's one thing. I don't know. It's just in me, Chris. I've always been a student of the business and student of life. I'm always looking to learn because I always want to get better. And this business to me is the most incredible business ever because it's kind of like your own self-development program that you're
Yeah.
implementing while you're changing and helping people's lives. And to me, it's a great way, like doing this today, I'm here to pay it forward to your audience. Hopefully it'll resonate with that right person that they'll take their business to the next level.
So, one question I have for you, Tony, that I always find super interesting for someone that's been winning and succeeding for such a long period of time. So, how do you feel like the business is different today versus when you got started? What are the differences that
It's
someone needs to pay attention to?
great question, my friend. Because I started in the business when we used ADC maps, pagers, and a roll of quarters because we didn't have cell phones. They had them, but you had to be a Wall Street broker, and most of us weren't at that level. It didn't even make sense to have a cell phone. It was a big suitcase. We had pagers, and hopefully the town had enough payphones you could use that worked. Today, it's easier than ever. I mean, I can remember, I think I was telling you this on when we talked the other day.
Hmm.
There were towns in West Virginia and in Western Maryland I went to that didn't even have signs on the streets. There were no names for the roads. It was Route 1, Route 50, Route 44. You had to ask the post office guy or the firefighter or the police officer where the houses were. You literally had to go meet with them and say, I'm going to this house. And they wouldn't know them by name. Who are you seeing, boy? I'm seeing Robert A. Smith. Oh, I'll take you there. You had to go through so many hurdles to get to your clients back in the day. The technology now is easier now than ever. Those that are not successful now in this business, shame on them because you guys have GPS systems. You just put it in your phone. You have now AI technology. We have a platform, as you know, at Integrity. All I got to do is, give me the address for Robert A. Smith. It takes me there. You got cars now that'll drive you to the house. You don't even have to drive. You know what I mean? Are you kidding me? We didn't have electronic enrollments today. We had paper apps. And back in the day, Chris, we not only had to take paper apps, we used to have to do swab testing on site, test their saliva on site, and submit it with the life policies back then. And you had to put it in the mailbox and ship it, or overnight it with FedEx back in the day. Now you have electronic apps. You don't even have to go to the client's houses. There was no telephonic romance back in those days, and we were still killing it. It's easier now than ever with the technology, the training, the support. Shane, I'm gonna tell you this: if you're not making $250,000 a year in this business, whether it's selling life, health, wealth planning, there's something seriously wrong with what you're doing. And I say the number one thing what's wrong is people's mindset. They fix that. It should be. If I was a new agent starting now, it'd be I would make 250,000 in my slate just with the technology alone. You can sit in the house. I can be on a beach. I live on a beach right now in Miami. I have a beautiful place overlooking the water. I could be on the beach in my swim shorts with my feet in the water and making romance.
Yes.
You couldn't do that.
Yes.
I can make enrollments anywhere around the world now. All you have to do is have a smartphone and a laptop. You're good to go. Where can you get that? It's amazing what you guys, especially the technology now and the younger generation, your generation, you guys were born. I think you guys were born with smartphones in your hand. You guys were built, you guys were groomed into the technology world. It's a no-brainer for you guys to use a CRM system and use this technology because you were born into it. The older over 50 crowd, we had to learn it. You guys were born into it. So if you're not making $250,000 a year, my God, you got to get it together because that should be easy. I don't care what sector you're in. That should be your norm. Matter of fact, at our company that you're a part of, and I'm so glad that you're a partner, Chris, because I knew of you for a couple of years, and a couple of my guys were using your platform and went to some of your trainings that you did. And I was shocked when you told me how old you were. I'm like, good Lord, I love these young bucks like you and Chase and others out there, these 20 and 30-year-old guys getting out there and young ladies getting out there making it happen. But Chris, because of the technology and what you guys can do, it's a no-brainer. And in our company, as you're a partner with Integrity, they did numbers in terms of revenue. We have over 6,000 individual producers in Integrity making seven-figure income.
Wow.
6,000.
Wow. That's a big number.
6,000.
That's a big
6,000.
number.
Now, some of them are life guys. Some of them are Medicare guys. Some of them are ancillary guys. Some of them are, annuity guys, IUL guys. But come on. There's 6,000 other men and women out there in this. And many, get this, the average age is 29 years old. The average age is 29.
Yeah.
That's incredible, Chris. So if they can make seven-figure money, why can't you? And those are just individual agents. That's not counting partners like you and I and others out there that are making 10 times that annually, and more. So to me, those that are listening now, that is the reality of this business, but you have to change your mindset. So I always have this say, people ask me my tips I call it the Tony's tenets to wealth and success. I'll share it with your team if you want it. You want to know it?
Yes, yes, please.
Number
Absolutely.
one, and I learned this from my original billionaire mentor, Mr. Bernard Rappaport. He was the founder and CEO of American Income Life. Him and I became dear friends on my way up the ladder at American Income Life for 6 years. I was with him. I made his chairman's club 4 out of those 6 years. Been at his home, visited him. He taught me a lot. I'm always been a student of those that have made it happen. And he taught me this, and I've adopted that. Number one, it starts with the attitude. If you don't have this right, there ain't nothing else can help you. And that's the biggest problem I see in our society, that defective program we talked about earlier. You have to change this. How you do it, you got to flood your stuff with books like you have in the back, CDs, cassettes. You got to be listening to that, podcasts. You use your smartphone. You got to be drilling that in your mind day and night. You got to almost brainwash yourself with the right type of thought process because you got many years of defective programming. That's number one. Number two, you have to have a strong work ethic, Chris. You got to be able to work like stink. We used to say back in the old days. I got that from Art Williams. You've heard of Art Williams? He was one of my mentors too. One of the most wealthiest men ever in American history. At the time he sold his company, A.L. Williams, he was the ninth richest man in America. As a matter of fact, his partner back then is a partner with us, Hubert Humphreys. In his 80s,
Yeah.
still making it happen. He was the brain trust behind all that. He's the one that designed that hierarchy system, the network marketing MLL levels. He's the one that created that and brought that to the table for Art. And they made a ton of money together, billions together. So you have to have strong work ethic. And that's hard for people to teach. You either have it or you don't. And I always ask people in terms of how they were raised, because lazy people are not going to make anything happen. And that's why, to me, that's why they have jobs for lazy people. Because you know what job stands for anyway, just over broke. I'm sure you heard that.
Absolutely.
Just over broke.
Absolutely.
That's for really lazy people because they need a boss. You have to be a special person that wants to go out there. I don't punch a clock. You don't punch a clock. I work until the job gets done, not because it's 5 o'clock. There's nights I've worked until midnight, 2 a.m. There's sometimes days I'm up at 4 a.m. to get projects done. Chris, this year, I'm one of the top partners of Integrity. I own multiple companies now. I'm not just one Integrity owner. I own, 4 other companies outside of Integrity and working on another 5th company, an AI chip company I'm starting with some AI engineers out west. And I still work like stink. I was in an average of 4 cities a week this year.
Wow.
Working with Integrity, building teams, doing workshops, doing seminars. I brought on board about 1,700 new agents, just myself, out there making it happen. That's what it takes, strong work ethic. Then thirdly, once you got your attitude right, which is the most important of the 3, the next most important is your work ethic. Because if you have the right work ethic, Chris, you can beat anybody.
Yeah.
You can have the worst closing ratio, but you'll never beat a man who'll outwork you. I used to have a saying, Chris, that I did in a seminar one time. It was in Chicago. This big dude, man, he's a big brother. Arms this big, bigger than my legs. He was stud. And I looked in the audience and said, I'm gonna tell you what, my friend, you might be able to kick my tail. You're bigger than me, stronger than me, younger than me. But I tell you what, 2 things going to happen if we got in a fist fight. Either you're going to quit, beat my tail, or 2, I'm going to die. But I ain't quitting. I'm not going to stop working. I'm not going to stop fighting. I don't care if I'm laid out on the ground. And if I still got teeth left, I'm biting the heck out of your ankles. He cracked up laughing. And most people don't have that kind of drive and desire and work ethic. You got to have a strong work ethic. You got to be willing to put in 60, 70 hours, 80 hours, whatever it takes to be successful. And that's with all entrepreneurs. I don't care what sector you're in, whether you're in retail, whether you're in construction or real estate or insurance, you got to be able to work. And you got to work smart. There's only 2 times, Chris, you're working in this business. Number one, when you're in front of someone that can enroll or on the phone with someone that can enroll. Other than that, you're unemployed. So I told people the biggest thing you need to work on is your activity. If you're struggling financially, as Coach Burke talks about, you don't have a money problem. You have a people problem. You need to get in front of more people. You need to get on the phone with more people. And I learned that from Tom Hopkins back in the night. So I controlled my activity. You control your activity, which is your work ethic. You'll control your financial situation. And the third principle that I teach, Chris, and the tenets is that you got to have the skill sets. You master those skill sets by reading the right books like you have, being around the right people like you. Man, I would love to be part of your agency, Chris. What you're doing is incredible. If your agents
Thank you.
can't learn under you, is something wrong with them. Because I have had people go to your workshops and seminars and come away blown up. What you're doing is incredible. What Chase is doing, Chase Groening's doing, and many others in our industry. What if it works for you and Chase? It should work for them. So get
Mhm.
around smarter people than you that have mastered it and be a sponge because knowledge is power. So those are my three tenets: being a wealthy and successful in not just this industry, in industry, the attitude, the work ethic, and mastered skill sets.
I love it. I love it. And I think it's so true. You know, like I heard Patrick Bet David say recently on like a video or a podcast of something. And, he was talking about the election, not to get political or anything like that, but like, he was talking about basically just analyzing the election and kind of what he saw. And
Yeah.
he said something very similar. He said, from his standpoint, that Trump won the election because he outworked, he outpersevered and he outlasted. And
Yes.
and that was the one that really kind of jumped out at me was the outlasting part, because people can go 100 miles an hour for maybe a short period of time, but like if you can outlast somebody,
Right.
they get tired, they give up. In business, if someone's doing well for a couple of years, but after a couple of years they fade out a little bit, right? Like
Right.
someone that stands the test of time like you, I think it's such an important lesson that agents
Yeah.
need to hear because, this is a longevity business.
Yes. Well, Chris, I didn't just like this business. I liked it, but I loved it. I
Hmm.
loved it. I love being able to help people that really. I love being able to show somebody how to protect their assets, get better benefits, saving the money. I do so many incredible things, Chris. And one day we can do another workshop that I can do for you and your audience about what I do in my sales presentation that my clients were like, I'd be a dummy for saying no. I had someone say that. How can I say no to this? Because I used to get them, packages with free vision, prescription, hearing, and dental. I set up with a free will. I help them with the extra help program. I help them with SPAT programs. I load them up on the front end. They got so many amazing free stuff for me. It was so easy for me to now sell them life. If I'm putting $400 to $500 a month back into your pocket on state and federal and private subsidy programs, you can't now tell me at the end of the presentation, oh, I don't have any money. I already taken care of the money situation up front, Chris. Some people said, people didn't believe I had a 95% closing ratio. And I would take it in the field and show them, and people were blown away. They're like, how the heck are you doing? I'm like, because I'm saving them, I'm giving value on the front end of my presentation. I'm showing them how SPAPs work. I'm showing them how the extra help program work, how this free will and actually help them set up the will for them. That saved you $3,000 right there. Then I show them the vision, prescription, hearing, and dental, the diabetic program, other things that I was providing for them through these subsidy programs in their community. Matter of fact, if you guys want to look up, it used to be called auntbertha.com. Something I utilized and started, was part of that back in the day. It's now called findhelp.org. You put in a zip code, it shows them all the subsidy programs right in their zip code from, food support, rental support, educational support. They want to go back to get their education. I was providing so much value, Chris, up front that I came in. I'm like, I was always, this is 30 years of doing this, Chris. Back in the early days, it wasn't as expansive as it is now, but we had subsidies back then. I learned about them, just offered them to the union members. You're getting this from your union, you're getting this from the community, you're getting this in the private sector, you're getting this from the federal government, you're getting this from the state. So I'm loading up on different things for them. Like, all right, what do I sign? It was so easy to me, So that was my attitude. So I told people I was a six figure, then I became a seven-figure social worker. I was making $1 million a year by the time I was 31 as an agent, and that's when I started getting serious about building agencies. And I built agencies all across the country, and as you know, and we can go on that if you want, part of this conversation if you like. But I've done some pretty amazing things, thanks to God. I thank God for this opportunity and what I've been able to achieve. But that's another thing. If you want to get into building, Chris, tell your audience, You need to be able to do it first. It's
Mm.
like when I became a really good football coach, I was a pretty good football player for 16 years. I coached for 13 years. We won 13 championships, 5 state championships, because I had a passion for football. I have a passion for this business. And like you said earlier, you can't do this long enough if you don't love it. It's just
Hmm.
like marriage. If you're married out there, your marriage is not going to make it if you don't love them unconditionally. It's going because you're going to have some tough times.
Yes.
You're going to have tough times. You're going to have tough times in this business. You're going to have tough times in life. You're going to have to, if you have children, you're going to have tough times with your kids. And that's why my kids have done so well, because we poured love into them. And no matter what they did, we still loved them. And that's why they're all doing well. I got a son that graduated from West Point, one of the tops in his class, got the appointment to fly a helicopter. He's going to do Blackhawks. My other son is a top student at Kelly School of Business. He's already gotten a job offer from Deutsche Bank. He did interns with JP Morgan. And then my daughter's a top student, one of the top all-girls school, Bryn Mawr. People say, how'd you do all that? Love.
Yep.
Passion. We didn't give up on them when they screwed up. We were there for them through thick and thin. Most people have kids and let society raise them. You got to be there through thick and thin. That's the same thing in this business. It's almost like a marriage, this business. You want to have your ups and you have to down. You have to persevere through those adversities. And another thing, I'll let your audience know this. Those adversities are blessings. Please write that down.
Mm.
Your adversities are actually blessings. If you go back to the Old Testament, Joseph persevered through those adversities. He was promoted through those adversities. He was put in the pit by his own family. His own brothers were jealous of him, put him in the pit. They wanted him to die there. Then they decided, you know what? One of the brothers said, let's just sell him into slavery and make some money off of it. They sold their little brother into slavery. He went from there and ended up working for his master, and his master's wife was hitting on him, tried to seduce him. He said no, honoring God and staying true to being a man of faith. Said no, but she still accused him of rape anyway. He went to jail for 14 years. Helped the guy in jail get out of jail. The guy said, "I'm going to help you." The guy left him in jail. And then the end of the story of Joseph. Through all those adversities, got promoted to the second man in charge of Egypt. He interpreted the dream for the Pharaoh, was then promoted, and ended up saving his brothers and their families from starvation. He forgave them, and ended up saving the nation of Israel from starvation. That's exactly how life works, Chris. This business works. My greatest adversity was when a company tried to destroy me. I built this big company. I won't name it for obvious reasons. It was a big final expense company. You know them if I told you, but I was doing 75% of their production. Okay, I was killing it, Chris. 75% of an entire company. That's a big company.
That's wild. 75%.
And I was actually part owner of this company. They made me an owner. They gave me the Northeast. I was killing it. And the owner and I got sideways, and his father, and they wanted to go in a different direction. I wanted to stay in my direction. I'm like, why should I change what I'm doing? I'm 75% of your company's production. And so get this, my wife was having the birth of our one of our kids. They actually knew I was going to be at the convention. It happened at the same time she went into labor. They literally invited all my agents to the convention in Florida and recruited all my agents up from under me, and then terminated my contract. Can you believe that?
So dirty. So
and
dirty.
Get this. Not only they do that, they said, by the way, we're not going to pay your renewals either. I was getting this was back in 2010, but I was getting $34,000 a month in renewals. Pretty nice amount of money. They said, we're not going to pay your renewals. And they're like, sue us if you don't like it, but we're not paying your renewals. I can't believe they're going to do this to me. And so I did sue them, and thank the good Lord, through that adversity, my greatest adversity, it helped me become one of the biggest names in Medicare. I helped start a company called Bravo Health out of Baltimore. I said I had to start over again. Why I was suing them? Get this. It took me 10 years to build up those renewals, Chris, with this final expense company. 1 year doing Bravo Medicare Advantage, my renewal check that following year, get this, Chris, it's amazing how God works, was the same amount of money annually that I lost over 10 years. So I made up for 10 years of renewals that I built. I had over 22,000 customers with that final expense company. lost all those renewals. I made it up in 1 year selling Medicare Advantage for Bravo Health. I went from 85 agents in 1 year to, by the way, they took my 85 agents, started over from scratch with zero, had 650 agents at the end of that year.
Wow.
Is that
Wow.
incredible?
That
Get the,
is that
get
is that is
get
incredible.
this. I did sue them in 8 years. I went through three court systems, even the Supreme Court of Georgia. We ended up winning the case. I got, oh, get this. It was 8 years later, but I got all my money plus interest. And
There
you
you
should have saw
go. There you
the
go.
interest part, buddy. The interest was amazing. So I ended up winning. Got
Well,
all my money plus interest.
that's incredible, but it's unbelievable your perseverance to be able to stick with it for that long, to be able to see it through. I think that's terrific.
I'm a fighter. I'm a fighter, Chris. For
I
all I
love it.
went through as a kid and all I went through as a young adult, a lot of tragedies, but we persevered. But I'll tell you, I did cry. I was on
I
my
would
knees many
too.
a nights.
I would also. I don't know
I
anyone that
almost
wouldn't.
I almost went postal, Chris. I thought about going down there and blowing the whole office up, the home office up. I for 2 years, and I'm going to tell you this too, Chris. I'm going to give you guys another quick lesson. You got to forgive. For 2 years, I struggled heavily mentally. It wasn't until the point I said, I'm giving this to God. This Bravo thing's working out. I'm going to let it go and let God take care of it because I was making myself miserable. I was getting sick. I was in the hospital with chest pains. I was gaining weight. Yes, I fixed my financial problem, but the anxiety and worry and anger was eating at me. I had to let it go. And for that moment, my sales even went even higher because I became a better person, because I was able to forgive the evil that they meant for me turned into good. And I
Mm.
built one of the largest Medicare agencies in the country. As you know, I actually exited two companies, my life agency as well as my Medicare agency, to integrity. So God gave me my reward, man. And he will do that for you too. Just understand it's part of the business. Those adversities are stepping stones to your success. So welcome those adversities. It's just how you handle that adversity that counts.
I love that. I love that. And such a powerful story. Tony, I want to be respectful of your time, but I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the event. So,
Yes, absolutely.
so this event we got going on, for anybody that's not aware of it, Tony's going to be there. He's going to be a speaker. I am extremely excited about that. We're honored that he's going to be there in person, giving value, talking to the audience. It's February 24th, 25th in Nashville, Tennessee, at the Greatness Factory. Coach Bert's going to be speaking. I'm going to be speaking. My business partner, Glenn Shelton's going to be speaking. As I mentioned, Tony's going to be speaking. We've announced a few other speakers. There's going to be more to come, but I'm super excited about this event. You know, when Chase approached us about co-hosting it with him, I just love what he's doing and I love everything that he's teaching. And, you know, we were just honored to be a part of it. Highly recommend you guys get your tickets. You know, we have a max capacity of 100 people at this event. Tony, I've a little bit about the event. Have you put any thought into what you're going to be talking about yet? And if not, that's
Yes,
totally
yes.
fine.
So what I'm going to be talking about is how to take your business to the exit level. If
Mm,
you have an agency that's doing good numbers, let's say you have a seven-figure, eight-figure agency, how to get it to that 8 and 9 figure level, how to get an exit, how to understand how the M&A world works in our industry, what you have to do to scale your business responsibly. And ultimately, I talk about how people can be also participate in the integrity dream because
mm.
it's pretty phenomenal what we've done in integrity. As you know, you're a partner, Chase is a partner. It's pretty phenomenal what integrity is going to do. And these next year, especially because of this election, is going to be huge for us. Whether what side of the table you're on, it was a blessing for our industry that Trump and the Republicans won both the Senate and the House, because some of these regs that were proposed in the Medicare and also the annuity and life business, it was outrageous. And thank the good Lord for our business, our industry, because it's only going to flourish. You've already seen stocks go up right after the election, especially for
Yeah.
Medicare Advantage agents. It's going up. So yes, I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to tell your team too. If they don't go, shame on you. Shame, you better go, because everybody that went to the last session I did with Chase, they've all communicated with me. They said it was the best seminar workshop they've ever been to. All of them's income went up after that. But you have to make that investment in your time and resources to be there. You have to be there. Because you're going to be, because I believe iron sharpens iron, Chris. Why wouldn't you
Absolutely.
want to be around other six, seven, eight-figure people and some nine-figure people? I mean, I've done, pretty much everything you need to do in this business. Exited two companies. I built Bravo Health. I built a company called HealthSpring. You ever remember Cigna Medicare was the
Absolutely.
largest IMO for
Yeah.
them. At one time, we were doing 45% of all of Cigna Medicare's business
Whew.
nationwide. We had the exclusive contract.
Wow.
I've also started three new AI companies. I'm starting a fourth one soon. I have a private equity company that I've helped be a part of, start with Brian Adams. I was blessed to be able, because of the resources from my settlement, my exit, that I became a partner with what's called Unity Partners. And I have now a VC company out of Baltimore. I'm like, why wouldn't you want to be around a guy that started with nothing, living out of a van, and at least get some nuggets from me and all the other speakers like yourself and what you've accomplished, what Chase has accomplished. Coach Burt, one of the foremost experts in business development and management. Just an hour with Coach is worth the price of admission. And you're going to
Yeah.
get probably what, a dozen speakers. They're going to all pour into you. To me, it's I don't think any college education can ever compare. I don't think Harvard, Yale, Stanford can compare what they're going to get at this event.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And we're tremendously excited about it. And I'm excited to spend time with you and Coach and all the other speakers because one thing I've learned over the years, it's funny. I don't know if you experienced this when you were younger, but when I was, in my early 20s, I had this thought process, and I think it's a broken mindset, that a lot of people have in our world that we were talking about earlier. But like I had this mindset where, I liked to be around people where I was the smartest person in the room because it made me feel good. It was an ego boost.
Yes.
As
Yes.
I've gotten older, and probably the last 6 or 7 years, I have learned and embraced that I want to be around people that are better than me in
Yes.
multitude of different areas, because
Yes.
that's how you grow. That's how you learn.
Amen. When I was your age, my average friend's age was in their 50s.
Mm,
I wanted to hang out with those guys that had been through the gamut, been 20, 30 years in business. Like my current friends, I mean, you look at my Instagram account, you guys can have it. It's the Tony Holland. That's my Instagram account. Most of the people I follow are multimillionaires and billionaires. I got six billionaires that are in my phone that I can contact at any time, because if I want to get to that next level, the 10-figure level, I got to have people that are already there that can mentor me and work with me and talk to me. Matter of fact, one of them I'm starting a company with, so that's important. You need to be around people that are way more successful than you, because success leaves clues,
yeah,
Chris, and you never want to be the smartest person in the room. You need a new
never.
room. I want to be the dumbest guy in my crowd now, because I want to be elevated. Like in Miami, why I moved. People say, "Why'd you move to Miami?" I mean, my next door neighbor is LeBron James. Dwayne Wade is also here. I was with him last week when they were honoring him in Miami, and it's like, why did you move to Miami? I said, I wanted to be around players. I would have gone to New York, but they don't have any beaches that I like in New York. So
Yeah.
I came to Miami. You want to be around that crowd, because I found out when I lived in Baltimore and I then moved to Clearwater, a couple of different houses. I don't want to be the richest guy in the town. I don't want to be the richest guy in the community. I want to be around other people that are doing 10, 12, 15 times more than I'm doing, that are creating companies, creating businesses, have creative ideas. One day, Chris, I'll let you meet my AI engineers. Some brilliant people. I don't know how they do it, but the bandwidth of their brains is impressive. I want to be around people like that,
Yeah.
that are doing things to the next level. For AI is going to be huge. It's going to be bigger than the dot-com boom as ever. It's going to be 10 times, 20 times bigger than that. As you guys are probably reading a lot about AI, it's going to be huge. And I want to be in that mix.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it's the next internet, it's the next social media, it's the next thing. Tony, I want to be respectful of your time.
Sure.
Guys, we're gonna drop a link. We're gonna drop links for Tony's social medias if you want to go follow him down in the description of this video. So go subscribe to his YouTube channel. Go follow him on Instagram. Tony, is there any other places that people can connect with you?
We're on YouTube, Facebook. Of course, Instagram is where I'm most have most activity there, because that's kind of the the new platform. And by a year ago, I wasn't doing any of that. So,
Yeah.
I had to change to feel like you got all this knowledge. You need to share it. You need to be on the social media. I was Mr. Anti-social media. So I've been about a year on the platform and we got tons of thousands of followers and really excited about that. And you wouldn't believe some of the people's comments back to me, Chris, that watching one of my quick 60-second segments gave them the idea, the tip they need. I've actually had them call me. I don't mind even taking calls from people that are serious that need help. I mean, you can reach me at 443-253-3634. And like, people are like, you gave out your cell phone number. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I want to help people. I'm here. I really want to pay Chris. I really want to pay it for. I'm not getting paid by you or Chase or anyone else, Coach Burt, to be there. I'm paying my
Yeah.
own dime, flying in. I truly want to help the next generation and build them up because I know the good Lord's going to bless me otherwise.
I really appreciate you and your time doing this video today, your time,
Absolutely.
at the event. I think you are just a really you're very smart, you're very accomplished, but I think it more than anything, just my interactions with you, I think you're a very good person. You want to give back, you want to help people. That's what I recognized, in our first interaction, when our integrity announcement went out and you personally reached out, you were so gracious and so welcoming. And so I just appreciate you for being that way because not very many people are.
Well, I've just been so blessed, Chris, and I just want to do what's right. I want to be able to leave this earth knowing I made a difference. Because the older we get, the more funerals I go to. And one
Yeah.
day it'll be mine. I'm like, I want to be able to make sure that when I meet my maker, that I did all I could. Because all of us, if you ever heard about the story of the talents, I want to be that first servant that did all he could with God gave him, his talents and abilities. And I want to be a good example for my children. I
Mm.
want to be a good example to my community. I want to be a good, one day I might have grandkids, be a good example for them. And I was in your all shoes. I was in your shoes, Chris. I was in Chase's shoes, so I know those pitfalls. So if I can help them through that, because someone once mentored me, it's my duty now to pay it forward, mentor the next generation. So it's really an honor and privilege to be here, to be with you guys, to work with you guys. I'm looking forward to the event at the Greatness Factory. By the way, if you haven't seen the Greatness Factory, you've been there, Chris?
No, this will be my first
You're
time.
gonna love it, man. I'm like, this is brilliant. What Coach Burke created, I've never seen anything like it. It's like everything's state of the art. They got studios, they got this amazing conference room. It truly is the greatness factory. If you can't get inspired and fired up just by you just smell success, you feel it. It's just nothing but the right kind of vibes, the right kind of fertilizer to take your business to the next level. I'm excited.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Guys, get your tickets. We'll also throw the link to the event down in the description of this video. Thank you again, Tony. Really appreciate your time. The first of many conversations, I'm sure. Really enjoyed the conversation. Guys, if you liked the video, do us a favor. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. It's going to help more people like you find the video who desperately need this information. Comment your thoughts down below. Subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.